Hello, hello, hello. My name is Asmita, your IELTS mentor here at Vedantu. And do you know, 30 second, bus 30 second, 30 seconds can, well, not save your life in some cases, but can save your IELTS score. Tell me in the comments when 30 seconds can save someone's life. And I'm going to tell you in this video how 30 seconds can save your IELTS score. So let's get started. But before we do, another thing to save your life, because I'm just great like that, is this form that you need to fill out. All right, this is a counseling form. Now, I don't know if you know how expensive counseling can actually be, and a lot of times, even when you shell out big bucks, you're still misguided by somebody who doesn't really know much but is taking advantage of the fact that you don't know much either. All right, so I don't want you to fall into that trap. And as someone who's gone through this strenuous process of actually trying to go and study abroad, I can understand the kind of things that you have to deal with and how overwhelming it can be. So please, I'm telling you, if you're serious about going and studying abroad, you will find this form in the description of the video. It's going to ask you a bunch of questions, get a feeler of what it is that you actually want to do. You are going to be contacted by a career counselor, a verified, certified expert career counselor, who's again then going to have a conversation with you and put you in touch with someone who has detailed and specific information about exactly where you want to go, the courses you need to apply for, the how to do it in the budget that you've provided, etc., etc. So if you're really serious about going and studying abroad, then don't miss out on this opportunity, because I don't know how long this service is going to be free for, because it's literally not a free service. Lot of people in the market charge upwards of 50,000 for career counseling. So make sure you are filling out this form. All right. Now, what is this 30 seconds that I'm talking about actually? Let's start with a blank slate. And 30 seconds is the first step you take, right? When you are attempting a section. We are talking about all 4 sections of the IELTS, not just speaking or writing, right? So listening, reading, speaking, writing. When you start a section, the first 30 seconds can set the path or the trajectory that the rest of the 60 minutes or 30 minutes or even 15 minutes is going to take. Now, the reason why these 30 seconds are very important is because, number one, it puts you on the right track. You make sure that you are doing everything in the fashion that is the most conducive for you to be able to score well in the IELTS, right? So each section has a different demand of what you need to do. And obviously this 30 seconds is a hook to get you to watch the video. It is more like what to do in the first 1 to 2 minutes of each section. And if you do this right, then you will succeed, because think of it, to give you an analogy, think of it as getting a good early start in life. You're getting put into the most premium school. You know how it gets difficult to take admission in good schools the older you are, but you get in right from LKG or preschool, nursery, and you are set. You are in the right direction. Nobody's going to kick you out of school unless you do something really horrible. So it's like that, the early advantage, all right? I want to make sure that all of you get this early advantage when it comes to the IELTS. So I'm going to tell you section-wise what you need to do in the first, like I said, not just 30 seconds, but technically 1 to 2 minutes of the IELTS, all right? So coming to the speaking section, we're going to divide this into 3 parts, part 1, part 2, and part 3. Each part has its own distinct 30-seconder that you need to follow. For part 1, don't start like this. So this is more of a don't do this instead of a do this. In the first 30 seconds, tendency for a candidate is, number 1, to get extremely nervous. Why are you nervous? This is your first question in a speaking test. It's been hyped up for you. You think it's difficult. Everybody gets nervous, all right? Even the best of us will get nervous, might fumble in the beginning of the speaking test, and that's what happens in part 1. So your problem here, getting nervous. What am I going to tell you? How to avoid that? You can avoid that by going in with a filler phrase bank, so to speak. So you have these certain phrases and words that you know that you can pull out. That's your ammo. right? You're going into a battle zone, you need to have ammunition. This is your ammunition. Going prepared with starting phrases. But before I tell you what those starting phrases should be that can help you combat nervousness, I'm going to tell you what not to say, because these are clear indications of either being nervous or not knowing how to speak in the speaking test. Number one is just saying, yes, I like it because it's a very direct answer, and it shows that you just want to get the answer over with as soon as possible. All right, your first part of the IELTS, even though the examiner is not judging you too harshly, is still a great chance for you to make a good first impression. So here we are playing a bit with human psychology. Even though the examiner is trained not to use the first few awkward responses you give against you, you can still wow the examiner, and that way later on, if in part 3 you mess up or fumble, the examiner will be more forgiving, because the examiner has a good first impression of you, right? So that's what we are trying to play with over here a little bit. So don't do this I don't know. Never say that you don't know something. Part 1 is all about yourself. What do you not know about yourself? And these are very basic factual questions. So never say don't know, even if it's a preference that you haven't thought about in the past. Don't say you don't know. Say that I've never thought about this, but now I would say, or I'm gonna go with. Say, take that approach instead of simply saying I don't know. Don't start with a. Even though I've told you that fillers like not only are they okay to use, they actually show that you are a natural speaker and you're not using memorized phrases. So you should be using a certain fillers, like I just did. When I wanted to correct myself, I just said certain fillers, right? So that is very normal, very natural, something that you should be doing in the IELTS. But don't start like this. So if somebody asks me a question and my first response is to say, that's a little off-putting. Instead, you can say something like, that shows interest. So there's a difference between the hesitation and the, that's interesting. That kind of a response. So know the difference, know the subtle differences between these things. My name is Rahul. I come from Delhi. What the problem with this is, especially in this line, I come from Delhi, it sounds too formal, too rehearsed, too, it's like you're putting on a show, right? So that's striking that balance between respectful but also smooth or natural. I think I'm just going to go with smooth. So finding that balance, that you're not getting over formal and you're not becoming too casual. All right, you need to find that sweet spot, and that I know can be a little difficult. It's a struggle, and that's what I'm here to help you with. The more you rehearse, the more you practice, the more familiar you are with the test, you are going to soon find that balance. All right, so what can you do now that you know why those phrases can hinder your IELTS speaking part 1? What are these things that you can do? Well, that's an interesting question. I guess I'd say. Instead of saying I don't know, saying I guess I'd say. Always taking, when you want to buy some time, you want to take some time to think about what you want to say. Instead of saying, instead of going blank and taking a pause, you can always put fillers like that's an interesting question. To be honest, I've never thought about it. Another response you can say instead of I don't know. All right. And going back here, while this is not a bad response, I won't say this is something you should not do. The reason why this is over here is because if you seem like you're too eager to answer without considering the question in the first place, again, it can make the examiner feel like you're too prepared for this. Like you've taken long classes and you've just memorized speaking prompts after speaking prompts. It can give off that impression. That is why you want to go with something more natural, because when you're suddenly asked a question, you will take your time to think about it. And it depends actually. So these are good phrases to use in the part 1 instead. That's your first 30 seconds of part 1. Moving on to part 2, how can you give strong openings? Now the thing with part 2 is you have some rehearsal time. You have time to prepare. In that, you can come up with a solid opening. Things that you need to avoid is sounding like our speeches in school that we used to give as children. That Hello everybody, today I am going to talk about avoid these things. This is not what we are going for. All you're doing here is narrating an incident from your life, make it seem like, those vlogs where people come and do like story time. A lot of times they're doing some get ready with me, they'll put on makeup and they'll be narrating something about their lives. That's the vibe you're going for, but without it becoming too casual. Tendency of these videos is that they might get too casual, a lot of slang words, not treating your listener as somebody who is your age. In this case, that's not what's happening. The examiner is older than you. You have to be respectful. It's a formal setting. That decorum needs to be established, right? So don't get too casual, but that's the general vibe that you're going for, okay? So here, if the example is describe a city you've visited, a bad start would be, hello, hi ma'am or sir, I would like to talk about the time that I visited Jaipur. So here you don't have to give a this is what I'm talking about kind of introduction. Instead, make it catchy, make it interesting, give a nice hook, show a little bit of your language skills here. Last winter, I visited Jaipur with my cousins, and from the moment we arrived, it was just one disaster after another. This is just to give you an example of how you can make an interesting start. And I'll tell you a hidden benefit of this, a very good hidden benefit of this is that the examiner gets so interested in your story that they're willing to let go of a few mistakes that you have made because they're so engrossed in your story. They might even be a little distracted and not catch some errors that you end up making. All right, so because you're making your narrative so interesting, you have hooked the listener right from the beginning. They are already impressed in the beginning of your part 2. So the next minute or so that you spend speaking, they are going to enjoy it as opposed to just treating it as a chore that they have to get over with, right? So better start would be an intriguing, interesting start. Don't ever start with, I would like to talk about this, I would like to talk about that. No, any cue card you have, just start the story from where it begins. You can say, so a few years ago, this is a perfectly acceptable start. You want to talk about a time where you helped someone. A few years ago, I moved to a city. For example, I moved to South Korea for a few months for an internship. Something like that. So start from the incident instead of saying, hi, today I'm going to talk about the time. So you get what I'm trying to say, right? All right. Now coming to part 3. Part 3 is again more formal, it's more academic, you have to give very nuanced opinions. Here you have to be formal, yes, but you have to maintain that natural flow of speech. It's still like an intellectual discussion. Think of it like an intellectual discussion that you're having in your living room, right? So you've invited some people over, you know those Baithaks, or if you've seen a lot of Satyajit Ray movies, which I would highly recommend that you do. If you haven't, sad, but if you do, there are many movies in which, they have these settings of intellectual people just coming and discussing a topic. They might have a whiskey in hand, they're drinking, and they're having this discussion. You can't drink, so don't add that to the equation, but it's just about talking about something that's important, but wanting to do it. For example, you meet up with your friends. What do? You gossip. You talk about some person that you don't like, right? You're just stalking people on Instagram. That's the kind of discussion you choose to have. But there are people who choose to have intellectual discussions. That's the vibe we are going for in part 3. That it's a formal discussion, yes, but I am not having it because I am forced to. I am having it because I like having these discussions. So natural, but formal because of the content matter of these, right? So I believe one reason is that people admire, is, or in my opinion, this trend reflects, one possible explanation might be, now here you're not sure of your view, but you're putting that across in a very, I would say, clean way. Right, so these are some phrases that you can use in the speaking section for part 3. Now let's move on to the writing task. So I hope the first 30 seconds of speaking task all clear to you. Coming to the writing task, the first 30 seconds again are going to be about what you're writing in your introduction. And an introduction is always your most crucial piece, because even if you've written brilliantly later on, if you lose your audience in the introduction, if you lose your reader in the introduction, you can't get them back. If the first chapter of a book is bad or poorly written, no one's going to appreciate the 10th chapter that is beautifully written, because they're not going to get to the 10th chapter. They will drop off at the first chapter. So here again, you need to make sure your opening is strong, it's hooking the reader, and the examiner is appreciating your introduction right off the bat. Again, that sets the tone for how the examiner is going to view the rest of your work. So here you can follow basic structure where you first paraphrase the question, that is just rephrasing the question, writing the question in different words like a statement, mention what the graph chart shows, and identify the main comparison. So these are 3 elements that you must have. So think of it like a checklist. These are 3 things that you must have to make a full, well-rounded introduction. An example of this is, this bar chart compares the number of tourists visiting 5 countries in 2020. Alright, so here what is the bar chart showing? It's showing the number of tourists visiting countries in 2020. The main comparison is between the 5 countries, right? 5 countries in 2020, and it's a paraphrase of the question. Something like this will be given in the question before you see the graph also, alright? Now here are phrases that you need to avoid in your introduction, or here's what you can avoid. This graph is showing, there is data about. This is too basic. Again, it's not fleshed out enough. That's the problem with these. I think this chart is interesting. No opinion words. I think just no opinion phrases or words in writing task 1 of the IELTS. Not necessary, not required. It's factual, it's data-based, it's objective. Your opinion, keep it to yourself. Use it in writing task 2. That is your opinion-based essay. Alright. Now moving on to writing task 2. Here you need to again give strong introduction. What your opinion is, or what the point of the essay is. What is the problem that you are going to be talking about or addressing. All of that needs to be given in the introduction, so the reader will know that this is what I can expect from this essay, right? So here is your 3-step opening for task 2. General background, problem framing, clear thesis. Clear thesis. So what you feel should be clearly communicated. Don't leave a cliffhanger here. Don't say that, ooh, you can only find out what I think at the end. No, just keep the point of this essay very clear. Don't convolute it. See, these convoluted things and techniques work. They work really well, but for people who have their basics in place, only very good, seasoned and gifted writers can actually pull these kinds of things off. Only those people can properly play with language, who know basics of the language in the first place. For example, you look at the work of James Joyce, who's a really famous author. The reason why he could write something like Finnegan's Wake, and he could write a really long novel that will seem nonsensical to you if you read it. The only reason why he was able to do it is because he was a very gifted writer in the first place. You can break the rules only if you know the rules really well, okay? So here again, don't break the rules, keep it simple, follow a 3-step opening. While fast food has become a staple in modern society, many people believe it is a major cause of health issues. This essay explores both sides and gives my opinion, right? So here, the question was probably that, what are the general background is that it's about fast food, right? So we've established that. The question was probably between, it could be like a government ban, those kind of questions that people think that government should tax fast food, or fast food is a health concern. Do you think that a premium needs to be charged to deter people from consuming fast food? Stuff like that. So here there are 2 sides. The one side is, yes, it's bad for health, but taxing it extra or adding a premium to the price to deter people from eating fast food works against those who are already in a financially distressed position. People who can only afford to eat fast food, you're taking away their one source of whatever, some nutrition that they are able to get. You need to eat to be alive, right? So that is another side of the argument. So here you can present both the sides of the argument and then give your opinion at the end. And the question probably said first talk about the first side, then talk about the second side, and then give your opinion. This is a very common question format in writing 2 tasks, right? So here you can give a general background. It's about fast food. This is the first opinion. This is the second opinion. And you will give what you feel at the end. Alright, so this is a very strong introduction. Here the clear thesis is that I will present both sides and then give my opinion. And the reason for that is to fully justify your opinion, or for your opinion to be justified in the eyes of the reader. Both the sides need to be established properly first. That's why you will give your opinion at the end. If it's a very straightforward opinion, you can write about it in the introduction as well. Right over in the introduction, you can say, I believe that this, and I'm going to give you reasons for that in the essay. Alright, so that's your writing task 2. Useful phrases for introductions. In recent years, one of the most debated topics today, there's growing concern about, this essay will argue that, okay, I think you just saw my hand doing this. Sorry about that, but yeah, I hope I didn't distract you. These are some useful phrases that you can use. Moving on to the listening section. Now, speaking and writing had a lot of doing. Do this in the first 30 seconds, right? So, an output was expected. For the listening and reading section, first of all, both of them are passive activities. First you're reading, then you're listening, and then you're answering questions, right? So, you don't have to write a lot. But there are still some things you really need to keep in mind in the first 30 seconds so that you are able to perform well in these sections. For the listening section specifically, very, very necessary. You need to look at the questions. Skimming the questions is absolutely integral. Alright, you're given time in the audio to do it as well. And the reason why you're given time is because even the examiners, people who made the exam, understand the value of actually looking at the questions before listening to the audio. When you're looking at the questions, you can sort of predict what the answers are going to be, and that will help you listen better and focus on the right information, right? So please go through the question. Next step is, like I said, predict the type of answer. Now here you can't possibly predict the exact figure. For example, before listening to a conversation about, let's say, a ticket booking, I can't predict how much the ticket is going to cost, but I can predict that the cost of the ticket is going to be a number, right? The name of the destination is going to be a name, right, of a place. So similarly, predict what is the answer going to be. Will it be a noun, as in will it be a name? Will it be a number? Will it be a verb? Underline the keywords in the question itself and then take a deep breath, calm down and get ready to focus on the audio. Alright, this is very important. Please do not waste the time you get in the listening section. You have to go through the questions. If you don't do that, you're going to be at a major disadvantage right from the beginning. This is very, very important. Alright. Now, here's an example of using your time wisely and actually predicting. When you have time to go through the questions, you go through the question. The question says something like the train departs at blank. Now, here, what do you know? It's going to be a time. A time is going to be a number. It is going to have AM or PM, right? So, these things are already in your mind. You know to specifically seek this information out when you're listening to the audio. So, when the audio plays, you are like, okay, the train departs or leaves. And another thing you can do is, okay, it says departs here. That means leaves. So I need to listen for the time at which the train will leave the station. And as soon as you hear the time, 4:15 in the evening. So because in the evening was said, you will write PM. Stuff like that, right? So predicting will already prep your mind to seek that exact information. It will become easier for you to concentrate. That's the benefit of this. And finally, we've reached the reading section. What is your first minute strategy? 30-second, 1 minute strategy here is to skim the passage title and first paragraph. That will warm you up to what the passage is about. You will get to know about the basic topic. You can prepare yourself to read accordingly. If it's scientific, it'll have a lot of scientific terms. If it's about the history of something, again, it might have a lot of dates. So all of that, it's like a warm-up for you. Go through the questions. You can't read in the sense that read in detail, but you can skim the questions and have a general understanding of the question types. Like, okay, these are all MCQs. These are all true, false, not given. So I need to pay attention to those kind of things. Underline keywords in the questions and do not read everything. Skim, skim, skim. First you skim, then I've already taken a session on this when you should be doing close reading only for these kind of questions, right? MCQ, you need to eliminate the distract. I've taken a long session on this, so you can please go watch that video. The what to do, speed versus score in the reading section. I think that's what the video is called. Check that video out. It'll really help you out. But the first minute, please skim through everything so you have a basic idea. You know what you're getting into. It's like, you know how they say we're doing recce? If you want to go to a particular place for a particular event, maybe you're hosting a party and you have booked a place, so you will go to the place before the party to get a general sense of where things are going to be and how it's going to work out. Or if you are performing on stage, before you actually give that performance, you go have a stage rehearsal to get an idea of what it's going to be like on the actual day. So here skimming is sort of like that. It's your stage rehearsal before the actual performance. Very, very necessary, very important. Can save you from many mishaps. All right, so that was my first 30 seconds for all the sections. I hope it helps. It's very important that you set the right intention right at the beginning of each section, and even if you get things wrong, even if you fumble, stumble, get distracted, always understand and realize that recovery is the most important step. You can't throw away the entire test just because you messed something up. Recover, make a recovery, make a comeback. It's still possible to get a very high band even if you miss out on 1 or 2 questions. Band 9 can be achieved in the reading section even if you get 2 questions wrong. Similarly for the listening section. So please have an open mind about that. Don't let your nervousness or don't get stuck in a negative feedback loop where you got distracted, you lost a question because you couldn't listen to the answer for a particular question, you missed the answer for the next question and then the next question. Don't let that domino effect happen. No negative feedback loop. You miss something, forget about it, recover, move on. All right, that's the end of today's session. If you enjoyed the video, then please do subscribe to the channel. If you benefited from it and if you think it can be useful for others, please spread the word and share it with all of your friends who want to go study abroad. Share with your relatives who might want to go study abroad. Follow us on all our socials and don't forget to leave your feedback, leave your comments, and I will get back to you with whatever it is that you wish to know. Have a great day ahead. Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.